So I want to apologize to whoever the Indiana Fever draft in the second round of the WNBA draft because, yeah, you're not making this team. I want to apologize to Jaylen Brown because you're not making this team. The Indiana Fever have made a fantastic training camp signing. They have signed Jillian Alleyne, who, again, is one of these players that is really, like, when you look at, this is what we're going to call a late bloomer in her career. Like, she has been a superb pro player overseas. Did nothing in the WNBA. Like, absolutely nothing. But she has been great overseas. And again, she is playing really well in leagues where there's a lot of good WNBA players. Like, she was obviously third team All-American twice, played for Oregon long before Sabrina Ionescu was there, and barely scored a point. What did she score? She scored 2 WNBA points in her career. And yeah, that's it. She then went and, after that, doing nearly nothing in her WNBA career, she has had a really solid career overseas, and she had an unbelievable year this year in Turkey. And again, she's 6'2", 6'3". She plays for, I don't think this team's very good. Like, they're second last in the Turkish league, but she's having a very strong year. Because again, like, look, the Turkish league is a strong league. Like, Botas 10 and 12. Like, they are 6 and 16. But like 10 and 12 is where you go for Demirs Dantas. Ormanspor, if I'm not mistaken, that's where Grace Berger's playing, isn't it? Yeah, that's Grace Berger and Kennedy Burke. That team's 2 WNBA players. All these teams have WNBA players. And she's playing at an elite level overseas. 18.6 points, 13.8 rebounds. Like, I want to just see the KBSL. I just want to see that league. So I just want to see the KBSL. Just looking at stats. She is leading the KBSL in points per game and rebounds per game. She is leading the entire league in points and rebounds per game. And I understand, again, it's easier to do that on a bad team, especially when you play overseas. And there's a big difference between them and a Fenerbahce. The reason why Fenerbahce are so good and a Mersin are so good, and say they're Americans, whether that be for Fenerbahce, Tina Charles and Caleb McBride when she comes back in. And for Mersin, that being Natasha Howard and Bridget Carlton. Carly Simonson never went back to Mersin. Galatasaray is Leah Rue as their import player. And do they have anyone else? I don't know off the top of my head. But it's obviously easier to do this when you're not on one of those teams. Because if you guys don't know anything about overseas basketball, the teams there down near the bottom, the locals aren't as good. So a lot of the time, the two international players that they have are Heel and Alleyne. So I'm guessing but you're looking at the locals, 3-point-something points per game starting. The locals aren't going to be as good, which means the imports have to do more. The worse the team is, the more the imports players have to do. And again, I'm probably speaking gibberish to a lot of you guys that don't understand how international basketball works. But basically, it is easier to do this on a bad team. But they're not horrifically awful. Like, I want to just check what their games for the season has been. So I want to see if I can just get their fixtures. So games. So they beat Ormanspor, which is Grace Berger's team. Did they have any good wins this year? They beat Damirs Dantas' Botas team, who aren't terrible. They beat Grace Berger's team. So basically, they're beating all the bad teams. They lost to Besiktas by 30. They only lost to Mersin by 11, which isn't that bad. They lost to Galatasaray pretty badly. Lost to Fener by 30, fair enough. So basically, they're losing to the bad teams pretty well, and they're beating the good team. They're losing to the good teams pretty well, and they're beating the bad teams. It's kind of what you expect. But on her season, she's leading the league in points and rebounds. She is leading the best league in the world outside the WNBA in points and rebounds. And yes, I understand this isn't a situation where this isn't what the Turkish league used to be pre-Unrivaled, where Fenerbahce would have won the WNBA because they had Nafisa Collier, Kayla McBride, Breanna Steward one year, Satu Sabali, MMA Saman. They had Julie Alamon. They had basically every good European plus Stu Fee and Kayla McBride. Like, it's not anymore that the best team in the world is in Turkey, not in the WNBA. But she's still leading the league in points and rebounds. Like, she is having an exceptional year. And look, you're signing a 30-year-old who's been unbelievable. And I think, by the way, with her season overseas, she makes a WNBA team. I don't think she is signing a training camp roster with a team that she doesn't intend to make. And I mean that. Like, this is one of those things where it's like, if you're looking at her as a player, she's also, by the way, averaging 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks per game. So her 3-point percentage is not that high, but a little bit of ball handling skills, some athleticism, just bulldozing people. Like, she is a true 4. This team doesn't have a true power forward on the bench. Damaris Dantas is a center. I don't care what anyone says. She is a center in modern basketball. She's an undersized stretch 5, but like, you're looking at a true 4. And like, her movement compared to Aaliyah Boston and Damaris Dantas, she is a lot quicker than them. And again, she's just there catching that board over Dantas, who is in the best shape of her life, by the way. Like, I don't... Look, obviously looking at film is one thing, but she's shooting good percentages. Her stats back it up. And again, look, if she was putting up these numbers on Fenerbahce, she'd be a max contract player. She's doing it on a weaker team. Players have done that. And yes, Jaylen Brown hooped in this league as well. She didn't lead the league in points and assists. She is leading the league. Nice hook right there to score. Damaris Dantas trying to guard her, taking Dantas in the post. Let's see if she's face up, burns Dantas. Like, these are what you want from a backup 4 who's not going to play very many minutes. There is nobody in this draft that's better than her that you can get in the second round. Sorry, there are people in this draft better than her. There are no second round picks that at this point in time are going to be better than her. And I understand, like, obviously for the future, go and take Soltau and Kosu in the second round. Go and take 2 players that you're going to stash, send to Europe, bring them over in 2 years' time. That is the best thing to do. Go and get players you can stash because they're not going to be as good as her. Like, I was not high on the Jaylen Brown signing because Jaylen Brown's struggling in a poor Russian league. She has been, I'm not going to say one of the best players in the Turkish league because, again, it's a lot easier. Again, as somebody who coaches in an overseas quote-unquote pro league, it's a lot easier. It's very common to see players on the worst teams in the league put up MVP-esque numbers, and then the next year they get a contract with a better team and they struggle. Like, that's a common thing. But it's not an easy thing to do. Her team's basically as good as Grace Berger's team, but she's putting in a much better shift than Grace Berger. Her team's not that much worse than Dantas' team, and she's putting in very similar numbers to Dantas. And not only that, like, if you want to look at her individual games, her game log is an impressive one as well, because she went to start the season, obviously, or last game, she put 27 on Dantas. The game before, she had 29 on 10 of 15 shooting 40% from 3 over these 2 games. Then against Fenerbahce, she had 15 on decent enough shooting, 15 against Galatasaray. But she had, earlier on the season, she had 26 on 15 shots against the best team in Europe. What did she have against Mersin? She had 1 point against Mersin and only took 2 shots. I don't know what the hell happened there. Was that some sort of Kobe Bryant Game 7 versus Phoenix protest? Or did Rupert completely mark her out of the game? Or was it Natasha Howard lock her up? And even still, if it turns out that Natasha Howard locked her up in this game, that's good for the Fever. Let's go for the Fever. This is a great signing. Not a great 3-point shooter, by the way, but at least looks confident shooting from 3. Like a Natasha Howard level 3-point shooter, but it's fine. We're fine with Natasha Howard 3-point shooter who actually shoots the ball quick and doesn't do this on the 3-point shot. This isn't a knock on Alyssa Smith. She's got positive things to her game, but this was not a positive to her game. But yeah, this is an unbelievable signing. If you're the Indiana Fever, I don't see how she doesn't make the final roster. And if you're Jaylen Brown, start contacting other WNBA teams. I think, can you sign me? Because this is an Indiana Fever team that has already got Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham coming off the bench at her position, at Jaylen Brown's position, and Caitlin Clark, who might end up having to play 2 at times. So there's no minutes. Even Jaylen Brown makes her roster, there's no minutes. And it's a team who doesn't have an actual backup power forward, and they got a backup power forward. I don't think that, because I remember saying it when I was talking about the draft, I'm like, I don't think there is a person that, I didn't think that there was a person that you could get in the second round that could make an impact for the Fever at the 4. And that's why I was saying, you know what, you can take a Lucy Olsen, you can take a Hailey Van Lith, and just kind of hope that it can come in and maybe give you something. Or maybe sell some jerseys. But like, this makes a lot more sense because this is a need the team has. You don't need to play an out of position Dantas a power forward off the bench. You don't need to play an out of position Sophie Cunningham power forward off the bench, even though I think both of them are going to be above her in the pecking order. But an injury happens and she could be very, very good. And again, when it comes to second round picks, it's very common that a team doesn't take a second round pick. But anyway, yeah, as a video, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.